We talk a lot about Jessica Tarlov's thinking is the very thinking which is crushing our country. But do you think that Harold Ford Jr.'s thinking is, part of the problem? Okay, drop down below in the comments. I always look forward to seeing what you guys have to say. And, this is where I say that Jessica Tarlov is super unhinged, but Harold Ford Jr., he's not too far off either. He's, I've really lost respect for him as he's out here defending a corrupt judge. It's completely ridiculous. If we did what the Democrats are doing, we'd be completely arrested. It is just sickening. All right. And that's the way I see it. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Shout out to the King Squad. Smash the like button. Hit subscribe. And there's a lot to unpack here. It gets pretty crazy. Let's go.
President Trump kicking off 100 days in office this week with a media blitz. And it sounds like he's feeling very good in this new interview. Take a listen here.
One of the things that a couple of your advisors have told us is that you're having a lot of fun this time.
I am.
That there's
I'm having a lot of fun considering what I do. What I do is such serious stuff.
Serious stuff indeed. The president marking his 100-day milestone with a huge focus on immigration, with stunning raids in 2 separate states, one at a migrant nightclub, resulting in the arrest of hundreds of illegal immigrants. And the White House, well, they were up early today, lining the lawn with posters displaying alleged illegal immigrants' mugshots and crimes they committed. They also held a rare early morning briefing with the border czar, Tom Homan.
This is unprecedented success. The border secure. President Trump saving lives. President Trump has proven no one does it better than President Trump. There is no equal, it's not even close. This is a border emergency until we end it, end all of it. You can argue against us all you want and protest all you want, but when you cross that line, and I've said this 1,000 times, when you cross that line to impediment or knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien device, you will be prosecuted, judge or not.
And so much for nobody is above the law. The media sure seems to have forgotten its favorite slogan from the days of Trump's legal problems after the arrest of a Milwaukee judge accused of helping an illegal immigrant in her courtroom escape ICE agents.
This is all a clown show.
Wants to be king. A king doesn't have a constitution. A king just does whatever he wants. This is a constitutional crisis.
It strikes me as maybe something illegal, but it also strikes me as something heroic. People are sometimes called to do civil disobedience.
Arresting a judge today. Are you kidding me? That is a sign of weakness, not strength.
Judge, I thought the whispering was over. That was Biden, and Rachel Maddow got in on that. 100 days is a time for a little reflection in the White House, saying here are the wins that we have so far.
There's so much to talk about here, and I'll be as quick as possible. Look, 100 days have been a remarkable success, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but I think the most important thing is immigration and what's happening, and the American people agree. 55% are agreeing that what the president is doing on immigration is incredible, and the transparency of this administration and the actual, Trump speed with which they're working is unbelievable. It's like we have 2 press conferences every day. It's like you feel you're actually working in the Oval Office. But let's talk about those 100 people who were arrested. During the Biden administration, 170 911 calls, emergency calls, and nothing was done about this club where these TDA gangbangers and everyone else are doing drugs, selling guns, doing all kinds of illegal stuff, prostitution, you name it. It's an organized criminal enterprise. So kudos to Pam Bondi for getting involved in there. And now, what the president does and his administration is takes a picture of every one of them, puts them outside the White House with their photo and what crime they're charged with. Excellent. Because punishment is not enough in these cases. They have to be socially ostracized. And that's what we did in the public square when we were a young country. Everyone knew what was going on and who was charged with what. So as far as I'm concerned, those individuals who want to blur their faces on the left, they say we should blur them. Why? Do they have privacy rights? Are they even citizens here? But let's move on to the judge. This judge should be removed from the bench. All right. No one knows better what she was doing than she herself. She made it clear in terms of her actions and in her words, her intent and in what she did. What's even more egregious here with this judge is that this defendant who was in a courthouse, which was the essence of accountability. And for her, it's an escape. But what she did was this guy was in court for a trial on a domestic violence case. 2 witnesses and victims were in the courtroom with the prosecution about to go forward. And this judge decides that she's going to move them out of the courthouse, tells ICE, you go see the other judge, the chief administrative judge, to get them out of the way, and creates a danger in the public so that there could be a shootout and other people could be harmed as well. But let me finally say that I want to know everything about this judge. If this judge went so far as to try to get an illegal on trial for domestic violence out of the courthouse so that he not be held accountable, I want to know how many of these cases have been dismissed. I want to know how many victims have had a case go forward where their rights were protected. What the prosecutors have to say about this judge, because it's not enough for her to just be charged with this crime. And by the way, she may have judicial immunity, but only for judicial acts. This is not a judicial act.
Those questions.
I'm just going to add right there. Shout out to Judge Janine for that. Just really, bringing that point to the table. And as far as that judge goes, not Judge Janine, but the judge that they're discussing. How can that judge be trusted to give justice? They can't. Okay, and they're sneaking criminals. It's just like, they gotta go. All right, let me know what you guys think about that down below in the comments. And we're getting closer to Harold Ford Jr. and his deception and his. He's a snake. He's a snake. I'm gonna call it like it is. It's unacceptable where he's coming from, and it gets pretty crazy. So let's carry on.
Crossed my mind too. In the kickoff to the first the first 100 days. The administration led with their strong foot, which is the border security and immigration. Good idea?
I suppose so. But first of all, the first 100 days is a media creation.
Yes.
Right? It's just designed as a hook for producers to come up with an angle in the summer. Because what else are we going to do right now? There's nothing really going on. The criticism, though, about Trump's 100 days is marred by one thing. They claim Republicans are critical. They're not. They love what they see. They just want more. And then when you look at the Democrats' criticism, you have to ask a follow-up question. What is it that's bothering you? They don't have an answer because they actually have no solutions. It's always these platitudes like Chuck Schumer. It's a constitutional crisis. What does that really mean? Can you point to anything? But it is only 100 days, and yet it feels like 1,000. It's because Trump does easily 10 times what any previous president does. It's like you went from a dial-up modem to 5G. It's like I don't have to sit in front of my laptop and wait for something to happen. He says it and it happens. And you're right. He basically pointed to the to the stands, the bleachers, and said, "I'm going to hit a home run," and he did that on illegal immigration. He didn't just end it. I mean, he flattened it. Yeah. And by doing that, he exposed that the Democrats have been lying all the time when they were saying their hands were tied. Well, it looks like their hands had blood on them because they let a lot of criminals in that killed people. He also crushed the structural racism of DEI. He fulfilled his promise to get women out of sports, and that was quick. And now you have imposters like Slotkin going, well, it really wasn't an important issue at all. Well, if it wasn't that important, why were you so cowardly and not actually defending the women and the girls who are subject to that travesty? The only thing that's kind of out there's a couple of things. Tariffs, you can't judge that in 100 days. But as predicted, the people that were screaming about the massive drop in the stock market are not saying a word, Harold, about it returning to normal or near normal. And we also have to think about Doge. Are we even close to the goal necessary to prevent economic collapse? No. And everything we just talked about is pointless unless we solve that.
Okay, and Jesse, let me go to you next. We'll save Harold for last so that he can,
Why?
Well, I figured we were just on a roll.
Sure, let's keep it going.
Keep this roll going. Can you keep the roll going?
I just love that Trump put these signs on the lawn. Only a president who watches cable news all day could come up with a stunt like that. He's like, you know what? You wanted to see my mugshot? Well, here's Jose's mugshot, and he's going home. Adios. This is in the back of every single live shot all day long, and they can't do anything about it. But they did it at MSNBC, Dana. They pixelated the faces. Now, we have a thing in cable television. You only blur faces of minors. They're blurring the faces of people convicted of raping minors. And why are they coddling these people? Dana, as you know, there was a school of thought during the time of, I believe, European imperialism. It is known as the noble savages. Now, the Western elites believed that these indigenous people were almost more morally superior to the West because they were in harmony with nature. They were pure. They were uncorrupted by the materialism of modern society. So they were put on a pedestal, and they were not allowed to be characterized as evil in any way. And this is what the modern left is doing with these people. They are coddling them and protecting them. And even if they do something bad, it's blurred out, it's ignored, because you have to keep that the same way. The judges are doing it too. They're making planes turn around. They're keeping these guys in their homes, MS-13, and now they're aiding and abetting the escape. They have sworn to administer justice, and then they're letting these people escape justice by putting themselves and the criminal above the law. And if Trump tries to execute the law, he's not allowed to do that. I have a law in my family.
Oh.
The children are not allowed to sleep or sit or touch the floor of an airport. We were at the airport today. What does Jesse Jr. do? The kid sits. He knows I can't stand that. I say, Jesse, you can't sit on the floor of the airport. He goes, okay. You know what he does? He squats. He did that on purpose. And I pick him up. And then you know what he does? He steals his sister's bag, sits on the bag. That's violating the spirit of the law in my family. So I grab him, I pull it up like that. Now, I'm allowed to administer justice. I'm allowed to execute the law of the land. It's my family. And if someone was to come in and say, your son's allowed to sit on the floor, or you're not allowed to pull your son up from the airport floor, that would be dangerous. Because if you allow that, you have chaos.
Wow.
Keep it rolling, Harold.
Yeah, Harold, I don't know if you could keep it rolling after that.
I'm taking notes on airport rules for my kid. I think those are good rules.
It's a good rule.
Good to be back with everybody. I'd say a couple things. FDR was the first person to talk about the first 100 days because the country was in economic disrepair and the country wanted to know what happened the first 100 days. The polling we see today, there's some good things for the president. You mentioned some of the DEI stuff, some of the gender stuff, and obviously some of the immigration, but really the border. The president's numbers are mid-50s. I'm part of the mid-50s. It would sound like what the president's doing on the border. We cut down on people crossing it. I'd probably be with the mixed group. It was about 48-48, depending on which poll who looked at how the president was doing on immigration. I have a different opinion about the judge. I think the judge in the case in Milwaukee and the ICE agents were wrong. I don't think you correct that wrong by arresting her. They got that guy they wanted. And I think the Chief Justice there should, let me just finish. I think the Chief Judge should say that you shouldn't, if we're harboring anybody, we shouldn't be doing that. 3, as much as the president was good on the border, we shouldn't kid ourselves, and no one around the table should. The reason the president was elected was the border and the economy. We talked about inflation and the high prices. Dana has said this before. It's the next 100 days that are most important. But if President Trump's numbers were high on the economy, then the president wouldn't be upside down on his approval ratings. He has the lowest approval in 100 days, first 100 days, since they've done polling, which was since 1945. And that's because the economy and how people are feeling about their economic futures are down. Now, I'm consistent on this. When President Biden and his team were telling the American people that they were doing better than the numbers suggested, I came on this show and others and said there are a long line of politicians who are sitting at home today because they tried to tell people you're doing better than you think you are. 70% of those polled believe that we are at or near a recession. A little more than that number believes that we're not doing right on tariffs, whatever anyone around the table wants to say about tariffs. And about that same number don't like all of the cuts in government. They like the idea and they believe that we can shrink and get out the redundancies and the fraud and abuse, but they think we can be doing it a little bit better. But I end on this. Democrats shouldn't show too much glee here. We have to offer ideas ourselves. The first 100 days, the president did not end the war in Ukraine like he said in 24 hours. He did not end all the fighting in the Middle East, and he certainly hasn't reduced prices. But guess what? That has not redounded to our benefit yet. It will only redound when we actually start talking about ideas and we put forward positive plans for the future.
Well, then,
and that's the next segment.
Well, then you're not going to like the next segment, Harold,
no,
because
I'm
we
ready.
got something.
So we're just going to jump right in and say, as far as Harold Ford Jr. goes, drop down below if you think that he's lost his mind. Okay, for the judge to not be held accountable, that to sit here and say she's not guilty is absolutely insane. Okay, this judge, she literally helped criminals, not just like illegal immigrants, like actual criminals. Okay, that is insane. And then you think that she should just be left alone, there should be no punishment? That's completely insane and completely unacceptable, Harold. I think Harold Ford Jr., normally he's less insufferable than Jessica Tarlov, but in this case, nah. In this case, Harold Ford Jr., I really think that, that is very unhinged and deranged. This is he sounds a lot more like the woke, deranged progressives. All right, completely woke and deranged with that one, with these recent statements. And on top of that, coming at the war in Ukraine, the Democrats don't want to end the war in Ukraine. That's why they consistently kept funding Ukraine. Okay, Zelensky, they kept giving him money. All right, and he was just continuously kept sacrificing his people because he was getting money from us. All right, so as far like the Democrats don't care about ending war, they want to keep it going. All right, and if they really cared, why do they continuously fight Republicans on the war? Like, they consistently fight us on the war, and they're not while we're over here trying to actually end it and hold people accountable and set up consequences and cut off funding that is just unnecessary and everything. The Democrats are attacking us on everything that we're doing to actually create real change and to help the economy and actual Americans. All right, it's just backwards to me, where the Democrats are coming from. But maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. I just can't believe that, Harold Ford Jr. is also trying to attack Trump on, oh yeah, Trump didn't hold up his promises and get things situated and end the war in the Middle East in under 24 hours and all this other kind of stuff. I really think that it's going to take years to really see the actual progress, or at least like at least a year to see the actual progress with the economy and the effects of what Trump has been doing. Okay, I don't believe it's going to happen just immediately overnight. Like, you can snap your fingers and it's done. That's what the Democrats want. But of course, they're the party of anti-common sense and wokeness. Okay, wokeism. So, anti-logic. So they're not thinking whenever I hear them talk. So and Harold Ford Jr., he usually kind of has a little bit more, rationality. He makes a lot more sense with his points than Jessica Tarlov does. But in this case, the woke progressive came straight out of him with this one, okay? It was just absolutely, disappointing to hear. Drop down below if you guys think that, Jessica Tarlov should be deported to MSNBC and Harold Ford Jr. should be here permanently on the 5. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments down below. Shout out to the King Squad. Smash the like button, hit subscribe. I personally believe, I understand that they have to have, an opposing view, but man, I mean, these opposing views are surely the most opposing views, okay? Super woke, super unhinged and deranged, and very much lacking common sense indeed. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Peace.